Back, Mike Callahan here. Been getting a lot of questions coming in through SimpleGrowth about hiring here for the upcoming new season, and I couldn't think of anybody better to bring in but Dan Relfs from the SimpleGrowth coaching team, where Dan helps coach businesses from 7 figures to 8 figures, going from that million to 3 million to 5 million to 10 million and beyond. Area. So Dan, if you want, before we really open up into this question that Chris submitted, you want to give a little background on yourself if people haven't met you through the Simple Growth Scale Group or the Simple Growth Masterminds Group, where we take those 7 to 8 figure businesses on the journey to where they're going.
This is awesome. Like, one of the things that I love doing is coaching companies, like you said, who are at that 7 figures, trying to grow to 10, or 10 figures, sure, 10 figures. They're at a million, trying to go to 10 million and beyond. And I've been coaching those companies for literally, it's been 10 plus years where I've been working with that kind of company. And I've had the chance to be inside and chat with hundreds of different $1 million CEOs and their businesses and being really in depth with them. My favorite thing that happens when I work with companies is when they get some kind of award, right? When they become a great place to work, when they're in the top 10 great places to work in the state of Idaho, for example, with one of the companies that I've been working with. That to me is the funnest part, is when we're building a company that is just absolutely an incredible place for the staff to be. And the truth is, Mike, don't you think it's true that most people want to be the kind of company where their staff love being there? I've met very few CEOs that are like, I don't care, like pull out the whips and like make people feel miserable coming to work. I think most people want their staff to be super happy. And so it can be super frustrating when we have questions like the one you're going to present.
Yeah, and it was just coming back from Phoenix this week. We saw a couple gentlemen that were basically either CEOs or the head of people, and their stories were so enlightening, because it really wasn't about a paycheck, but it was about some of the things we're going to be diving into today. So whether you're a $1 million company and looking to scale to 3 to 5 or 10 million and beyond, or you're itty bitty, or you're 250 to 250,000. The things we're going to be talking about here, Dan, is really applicable to any size business, because the whole way we go out and hire and bring people on and onboard and retain them, it's a new way that we have to approach it. Well, it's not necessarily a new way, it's a proven way, but it's new for the service industry for most folks. And I remember the first time that we met, it was mind blowing to me that, wait, it's not just about the paycheck and what you can do for me as an employer, but all the other things we're going to bring in. So Dan, if it's cool with you, I'm going to actually pop my screen open, show the question, and we're going to break this down, how to actually go out and hire in this new way of hiring.
Let's do it.
All right, so here is a question. It's going to be a little hard to read on the screen, so I'm actually going to read it. I am new to the service industry and getting hit with my first 2 terrible hires. One quit after 1 week, and one has terrible attendance. What are your suggestions to attract and retain quality employees? We are in the residential service industry. And some of the questions here, very similar to what we see in the groups, Dan. You're going to be going through this motion forever. I suggested, hey, there is a better way, and I'm going to bring in one of my top coaches, Dan Relfs, to actually talk about the solutions. And Jeff mentioned that, hey, we've got about 35 employees. I have our key 10 plus or minus employees who've been with me over 10 years. However, he is running with 1 or 2 employees who always be facing this. It's an inevitable part of the gig. And Jeff, in the early days, I would have definitely agreed with you. But unfortunately, most people have not been introduced to Dan or these systems that we used at Callahan's Lawn Care, now at SimpleGrowth, or the 65 to 70 people in our SimpleGrowth Masterminds group that are starting to get acclimated. And Amanda says, hey, Mike, did you ever do a video on this subject? Becoming very dire. Any suggestions are welcome. We offer top dollar. There is a clear shortage of people in my area. We have many friends across the industry, and everyone is struggling. It's depressing. While the ad is no longer about the client, but about the potential hire only. We all have plenty of work. What we don't have is the people to help us do the work. So Dan, let's break this down and see what we get into here.
Yeah, first of all, it is getting increasingly competitive. It's getting increasingly difficult to be able to find people who are willing just to come in and do good work, especially the kind of work, right, that in the service industry we're offering. And so it becomes importantly more strategic for us as leaders to make sure that we're absolutely nailing creating an environment that will attract and retain great talent. And so maybe there are lots of ways to think about this. Let me give you one way to kind of begin to think about this. So back in your human psychology classes, there was a guy by the name of Maslow. If you remember Maslow, that he talked about 5 fundamental needs that we all have as human beings. And even though there's some discrepancy about Maslow, for the most part, people still agree these 5 things are things that everyone needs. And as employers, we have to get better and better as time progresses about meeting all of the needs of our human beings. And when we have a place that both meets the needs of human beings, just not just an employee, but a human being, when we have a place that meets the needs of the human being, not only will we retain the talent, why would I go anywhere if all my needs are being met? And 2, we will begin to attract great talent because we'll have something truly unique and truly worthwhile that we're able to help them. So let's review Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Need number 1 is I have to take care of my physiological self. So most of us, many of us, I shouldn't say most, many of us are basically operating when we think of employees at the physiological level, meaning I'm going to give you money to eat and house yourself. And that's all we're going to do. If you're only at this kind of first tier of caring for your employees where it's just transactional, then I'm not going to build any loyalty. In other words, if all I care about is how much I'm getting paid, then as soon as I get paid $1 more, 1 penny more, I'm going to transition to some other position. I'm going to leave the company and go find someplace else to do it. It's also true if my only, if it's just a transactional relationship where I can get this pay if I do this little bit of work. I mean, we're programmed from very early days in elementary school and high school and junior high, all the way through our educational experience to do as little as possible for the A, right? Like, were you that way, Mike? It was like,
Oh, absolutely.
I was like, let's do as little as possible to get the A. And so in a similar way, if this is just a transactional relationship where I get this, if you give me this, or yeah, if I give you this, you'll get this, right? If it's transactional, then at the end of the day, I am going to do as little as possible to get my maximum paycheck. And that's kind of pre-programmed in us. And if we're operating this first tier, which is simply a physiological transactional tier, that's generally where we're going to hang out. So tier 1. But by the way, we have to do that right. If we're not competitive in our pay, if our paychecks aren't showing up on time, if there are moments where people are like distrusting whether or not they're actually going to get paid what they deserve, then we're in big trouble. We're not even meeting their fundamental human need of physiological need. But that's hopefully those are table stakes. Hopefully we're all getting that right. The second level is trust. Do I trust the people that I'm working beside? Do I trust the person that I'm leading? Do we have a kind of culture where there's gossip and backbiting? Do I have a kind of culture where there's a lot of like, I'm not going to chip in and help you, and because you're not going to chip in and help me? So I need to be in a position where I have general trust that I'm going to be safe and secure. So the second Maslow's hierarchy is safety. I want a place where I can feel safe when I come to work. And so this is where sometimes the first thing we have to do to create the kind of culture that will attract employees, ironically, is getting rid of some of the bad ones. Because a lot of times the reason people will leave companies is not because of the leader and not because of the company or the culture or the pay. It's because the person I'm working side by side is a vindictive, etc. Fill in the blank. And I'm not interested in working with them every day. And so I'm out of here. And so we have to evaluate, we have to look throughout our company and find out, are there people within our organization that are violating fundamental trust rules? They're making people feel unsafe? And unsafe can show up in a lot of different ways. It could just be they're always super cranky, and everywhere we go, they're just jerks. Because at the end of the day, do you know the number one reason people will stay at a job is because they have a friend in that job? And you know the number one reason people will leave a job is because there are people around them that are toxic. And so you got to get rid of the toxic people and have a safe environment where people come into work, they know that there aren't any things jumping out from around corners. The employees working around them, they're leading work around them, is going to treat them fairly. And that's level 2. If I can get to level 2, I'm already ahead of the game a little bit. But again, I don't know that I mean, that's kind of what I hope a job will be. And so I'm more likely to stick around a little bit longer when it comes to retention. But I'm still have 3 levels of human need that might not be being met. Now, if you can get to level 3, do you know what level 3 is, Mike, by chance, on
Not
Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
not off the top of my head, but I'm resonating transactional because A, we got to get that right. And B, a lot of times people will leave a great company because the manager is just toxic.
Yeah.
So I mean, this hits
People
the
quit
core base of
bosses.
my lawn care company in the early days. This could
People quit
happen.
bosses, not CEOs. They don't quit companies, they quit bosses. And so if you have a boss where you see a high level of turnover, you should be like, ooh, that is a great sign that maybe this boss isn't doing the job right. It's not 100% corollary, but it's a good sign. And then level 3 is community. So I, as a human being, we have a fundamental human being to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. To be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And most of the time, if I'm showing up to clean buildings, or I'm showing up to mow lawns, or I'm showing up to do some basic task, I don't feel part of something. I feel like kind of like disappointed, and like it's like I don't feel like, oh man, look what I get to be a part of. There's a great example out of Seattle. If you've ever been to Pike's Fish Market, um, Pike's Fish Market did an incredible job of transforming a job from a drudgerous job to an amazing one. So they have a fish market there, and the job of the fish market people are to wander down to the wharf, pick up the smelly, gross fish at 4 a.m. in the morning, bring the grody, I don't like fish, bring the grody smelling fish back to their fish market and place it in cases and then sell it throughout the day. That's the job. It's not glamorous. It's not glorious. And for years and years, it was just a job. But then they decided, I don't know who decided, whether it was the leader or someone within the organization said, one morning they woke up and they said, do you know what? We're going to have fun. We're going to have fun, dang it. And they started throwing fish around, and they started like laughing and joking with each other. And the next thing you knew, Pike's Fish Market is now world renowned. World renowned. People come from all over the world just to watch them work in a stinky, smelly job, because they created something that was bigger than themselves. So if I'm sitting at home and I'm like, well, how do I go about creating something bigger than myself in my little lawn care company or my cleaning company? You start with three fundamental elements, really. The first one is purpose. You need to add a reason why you do what you do to the day-to-day grind of the job. And so one lawn care company that I've consulted said, our why is to save lawns and elevate people. And so every morning when we wake up, we're out there saving lawns. And there's a little bit more reason why we do what we do. And I can tell you that lawn care owner reported recently to me. He said, our people are 2 times more productive since, like, I don't know if it's 2 times, but they're like, we lost $40,000 last January and we made $5,000 this January, and it's off season and it was harder. And it was because our guys are just fully engaged. They're waking up in the morning, super excited. And I know that sounds simple, but as that begins to seep into the way we act and operate, way we talk to new potential hires, etc., we get in a position where all of a sudden this matters. The work we do really, really matters. And that's why we do what we do when we wake up every morning. There's the old story of like the NASA engineer, the NASA janitor, who, when asked, what do you do all day? He says, as he's mopping the floors, it's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm putting a man on the moon. And when we can connect the day-to-day work that we're doing with a much bigger cause or purpose, it satisfies a fundamental human need. And Mike, I know you've done this work. And so at SimpleGrowth, what's the purpose? Why do we do what we do at SimpleGrowth?
We help business owners take their life back from we help business owners take their life back from their business.
Yeah. So Mike can say to people in grindy jobs in his business, hey, there are people out there who need us, who's struggling to hang on to their lives, who have trouble taking their kids to drop them off at the bus stop because their business is too overwhelming. Like, it matters, the work that we get to do. And so the first thing you can do is purpose. The second one you can do is values. So values is a list of behaviors or attributes that we believe and we're going to have everyone live by. So again, the second, that second fundamental need is community. And so if I feel like I'm like other people around me, I said before, the number one reason people leave is because there's toxic things. And the number one reason people stay is because I feel friendship. I feel kinship with the people around me. And so if you as a leadership team or you as a leader can define, this is who we are around here. And so if you're this way, you're going to fit in around here. If you're not this way, you're not going to fit in around here. And so then I can be very intentional in my hiring process. I can be very intentional in my firing process to make sure that we have people that fit in with us. So for example, my family, we have a set of core values, and there are things like we work hard, we're responsible, we dream big. So we have this list of core values that kind of describe who we are as a family. And when cultures get this really right, like people will come, like what was one of my favorite core values? Oh, it was the core values from a lawn care company the other day that I was talking to. And they said, one of our core values is we embrace the suck. And I was like, oh, I love that. Like we embrace the suck. And they're really clear. If you're not willing to embrace the suck, you're not going to fit in around here. But if you do embrace suck, then man, this is the place for you. Right. And so we want to define these core values that are going to talk about the type of people that fit in. And so if you brought someone into a culture that embraced the suck who didn't, they're going to be spit out. They're just not going to fit in at all. And so to define that, we can say, this is who we are. This is what our tribe is. This is what our community is. And again, that's one of the fundamental human needs we have is that community. And then the last piece is this idea of, is a mission or a cause that we're about. So same lawn care company that embraced the suck, they said, we're going to be the best in the valley. We're going to be the best lawn care company out of anyone else in our community. We're going to be number one. And that kind of mission or cause, again, allows them to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So purpose, values, mission are all ways that we communicate to our staff, hey, you're part of something bigger than yourself. And that satisfies just a fundamental human need. It's not unique to any culture. It's like across the board, everyone needs that. Does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah, Dan, and a lot of people maybe listen to this, and I'll be honest, the first time I was listening, man, it feels kind of touchy-feely. I don't know. These are guys and girls in lawn care or cleaning. But I will tell you that right down to those 5 needs, they're just basic to any person that's trying to join an organization. And what kind of clicked to me and when I really bought into it was kind of like a sports team, that community. We're driving towards a common goal. If you don't have good work ethic, you're not a team player. You're not going to fit on the team. But how do world-class sports teams get these people on their team and want to play for them? These are all the foundational things. So if you're thinking, well, I own a lawn care or home cleaning company, this isn't going to work. It's the same thing in a sports team. It's the same thing in business. And Dan, I'll tell you,
we can't afford to get people at $100,000 salaries, right? We got to win in another way if we're going to get good people to come and good people to stay. And so it's like we can't just try to win with Mike froze up, but we can't just win right with our ability to like pay well and outpay someone else. We have to win in a way where we're really talking about culture and figuring out culture. And so it's even more important for us to do that. All right, last 2 things, and then we'll be about done. So the fourth of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is the need of esteem. So meaning I am not only a member of the community, but I'm valued individually for my contributions. So as a human being, I need to know not only am I part of this, but my contributions are unique and they matter. And so we got to find ways to communicate to our staff, hey, your unique contribution matters. And that is done with great leadership. It's done with great management. It's done like most employees, I forget the percentage, most employees in the workplace feel undervalued and underappreciated. And it's not because they're not getting paid. It's because nobody says, hey, good job. You did a good job. Let me communicate how awesome you are with the work that you're doing. And so whatever you can do to especially individually celebrate, honor, reward, congratulate, endorse the work that individuals are doing within your organization, the more likely you'll be to have them again to stay. And then the 5th level is the level of self-actualization. Now, this may seem odd in service industry, but let me recommend a book to you. The book is called The Dream Manager. And the dream manager articulates a company that went about it's a cleaning company that went about trying to create an environment where where they help their employees to self-actualize. And they basically said, how do we get employees to stay? Asking the same question. They started asking questions to their staff. What can we do? What can we do? And at first it was like, man, I don't have a ride from my house to the office. And they're like, oh, sweet, we're going to put together a shuttle bus and we're going to shuttle people in. Well, they just kept asking until eventually the question was, what are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What are your goals in life? And can we help you fulfill those dreams by being a part of our organization? And they eventually hired a dream manager. Now, in my background, I used to be the dream manager for a software company where literally my job was to help identify, articulate, and accomplish personal dreams. And if you can get to this tier, this level, so good first step would be just read the book, The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. But I talked to one of our former employees at this company 2 days ago, or today actually. And she said, Dan, I remember you being our dream manager and you helped my dream come true. I was starting a little restoration business with my husband, and you helped me find the right places to talk to, and you helped me connected me with the right marketing guy, and you helped me get this dream going. And I remember how loyal I was to that company. In fact, I worked harder, I put in more hours, I worked weekends. And then she went on to tell the story of a company who didn't care for their employees that way. And she said, man, I was fair with the company, meaning I did all the work that they asked me to do, but it stopped there. And so when we can help people meet all of the hierarchy of needs, so we're paying them fairly, we're creating a safe work environment them to work in, we're creating a culture where they can be a part of something bigger than themselves, we're showing that we care about them individually, we're esteeming the work that they're doing, and then finally we're helping them to self-actualize. I mean, we're going to create a formula where people are getting all those needs satisfied. Now, if you think about it, if you looked across the landscape, how many of those needs are your competitors meeting? I don't know,
One,
Mike.
one, maybe two.
One, maybe
Best,
two.
at best.
Very few are even getting to level 3 of meeting the needs of the human beings that they get to work with and interact with. And so the outcome is you have this opportunity to go be really unique in your industry. And when you are unique and you can meet more needs than your competitors, word is going to spread like wildfire amongst these communities of workers, and people are going to start flocking to you. They're going to start showing up at your door. Now, obviously, there are other really great techniques to make sure that we're marketing well, we're promoting our employee brand. But the very most important thing we can do, the first thing we can do, is we have a product we're selling. We have an employee environment and culture that is absolutely drop dead sexy, where it's just like, man, this culture is amazing. And when that happens, what you'll come to find is, first of all, you're going to plug the holes in your bucket, meaning people are going to stop leaving. And second of all, you're going to be able to really create a culture that is magnetic to the right kind of people. The author of The Dream Manager, or the story of The Dream Manager, I've talked to the actual owner of the business that ran the dream management program. And she said that her employee churn rate, which was about 200% annually, when you think about that, it's a huge, huge number. It dropped to, I wanted to say 20% annually. So it dropped dramatically in the cleaning industry. And so these are the kinds of things we can do. When we can meet human needs, people are more likely to stay. And I know that sounds kind of like froofy, but it's just the reality. The reason that people are leaving is because I'm leaving for something better. And the reason I'm leaving for something better is because my needs aren't being met.
Awesome, Dan. Can't thank you enough. So if you're listening to this, get uncomfortable, be different, go find those employees, create that community. We're seeing it day after day with the coaching clients that we're working with that are adopting this. So Dan, any closing thoughts before we wrapped up here? I know you've got a very condensed schedule today, but I really appreciate hopping in and sharing this, because this is at the heart of all the major issues we're seeing in all the service industries, particularly lawn care right now with a lot of the folks we're working with.
Yeah, the truth is, it's not as hard as it seems, but you probably need help and support and coaching and training. And so, like, go find resources, go find people that can help you put these things in place so that you can start to really have that strategic advantage. Meaning, it's going to take time. but you can do it, and you can make a huge difference, not only in your own life, right? You're going to have better results, but honestly, in the lives of your staff, which is what really matters.
Awesome, Dan. Can't thank you enough. Definitely gonna have to get you back here on these Facebook lives, answering these tough questions, how to handle the people issues in these businesses. So until next week, we'll see you again here on Facebook Live, answering your questions with Dan Rouse.
Thanks, guys.